I'm Greg Krugen in Houston.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
And I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas, and this is Texas, The Issue Is.
This week I talked in depth with Democrat for Texas Attorney General Rochelle Garza, who laid out her case for replacing controversial incumbent Ken Paxton. How did being the daughter of educators and the sister of a special needs brother form your worldview?
It formed everything for me. You know, I grew up learning advocacy at home. I grew up learning what it meant to treat everyone with dignity and respect. That's why I have become a civil rights lawyer. That's why I fought for people that have been overlooked and left behind by our legal system, because I truly believe that we are all equal under the law.
Rochelle, you've talked to thousands of Texans since the Dobbs decision. What are women telling you? What are Texans telling you?
And I hear these stories of heartache and fear about what the future holds, but also these really difficult decisions that people are facing. I received a letter from a mother who was pregnant with twins and had to leave the state because one of her twins was not viable. And this was clearly a very wanted pregnancy. I've spoken with physicians who are so afraid to provide care and are concerned about the state of the medical field in Texas. I'm a mother. I have a 6-month-old daughter. Roe fell when she was 3 months old, on her 3-month birthday. And I remember looking at her and just feeling so heartbroken for the future about whether or not she would be able to control her own body and her own future. And that's why this fight is so important for so many Texans. It's about our lives. That's why I'm in this fight, to make sure that we unseat not only a criminally indicted attorney general, but someone who has sued to stop doctors from providing life-saving care to people who need abortions in our state.
If elected attorney general, how could you provide Texas women more protection than they have now?
Well, when I'm elected attorney general, when I become the attorney general of Texas, I am going to use the independent constitutional power of this office to protect Texans from these extreme abortion bans. And I'll have the power to do it. I can partner with district attorneys across the state of Texas to fight to protect reproductive rights in state courts. And I can make sure that we are not forcing doctors to second guess the care that they're giving and for fear of going to prison for life or losing their medical license. That's my commitment. I am not going to stop fighting until we restore abortion access in this state.
When it comes to our border with Mexico, it's not a new issue for you. You grew up there.
Yeah.
You understand the challenges, and you've seen what's gone on. How could you make it better?
So we can absolutely protect people, stop human trafficking, stop gun trafficking, stop drugs from coming into this country that are destroying lives. We can do that. But we also can treat people humanely.
Is President Biden doing enough in the border?
Frankly, no. I think the federal government needs to do a lot more work to ensure an orderly immigration system and ensure that people are treated with dignity. I also recognize that our border communities are bearing the brunt of this. We need to give them support. Border communities are typically the most impoverished in our state. So let's make sure that our communities have resources, and as Attorney General, I will hold the federal government accountable for doing their job, because we shouldn't have to bear the brunt of it as Texans.
How did Paxton fail us before the grid failed and after?
You know, Paxton didn't do anything to hold anyone accountable. These energy companies put their losses on the consumers. And so we are being forced to pay back those losses over time. So in part, that is why you're seeing an increase in your energy bill. So we need to stop that. We need to make sure that we have an attorney general who will look into that, investigate, and hold people accountable.
The president has made a significant move in pardoning thousands of prisoners within the federal system for crimes involving simple possession of marijuana. Your reaction to that?
I think it's really important that we move towards legalizing cannabis. So legalizing cannabis in Texas is $1 billion industry, and we can fund public schools. We can reinvigorate rural Texas.
If you could teach your daughter one lesson, what would that be?
Don't ever let anyone underestimate you, because you can make real change. Doesn't matter how small you are or where you live, you can have a huge impact.
What would it mean to have a Latina as the top lawyer for the people of the Lone Star State?
This is the people's lawyer, and we're going to return it to the people of Texas.
All right, my one-word response, firewall. Stephen, how about you?
I'm going to say new blood. We'll get into it later, but she's the different type of candidate that the Democratic Party will need moving forward.
Okay, Koski, lay it on me in one word.
My word, sedition.
Okay, stay with us. The Fox Texas Trio is set to drill down on Garza's positions and prospects on the other side of this break. Welcome back. Rochelle Garza made no bones about it. If elected Texas Attorney General, she will deploy every tool at her disposal to challenge the legislature on reproductive rights. Stephen, can that pledge get her over the hump come Election Day?
I don't think so, because, whether somebody may agree or not, Garza is attached to Beto. And if you look at the recent polling, and if we think that the polls are correct, Uvalde didn't help Beto get a bump. Reproductive rights, the Dobbs decision didn't help Beto get a bump. And so why would Garza get a bump but not Beto O'Rourke, who's at the top of the ticket? So I really don't see that pledge energizing more people. Now, granted, and Rudy talked about it last week, the polls could be off. There could be more energy and more anger about the Dobbs decision that we may have to find out on Election Day. But on its face, I do not think that pledge will help her.
Okay, Rudy, Garza's going to need some crossover votes to prevail. Based upon what you heard, can she attract them?
No, based on that interview that she gave you, there is no chance, in my opinion, that she's going to get crossover voters. If she hadn't said what she said, I think that she had that chance, but not now. Let's face it. What she said about that her friend with twins, that was disturbing. It wasn't quite clear. Was she advocating aborting both the children? And we already know that state law allows abortions to take place in case of the health, if the health of the woman is in danger. So we're not quite sure exactly where she's coming from along that line. Plus, as for aligning herself with pro-abortion DAs and ignoring state law, ignoring law that the state legislature has passed, well, she needs to look at history and see what happens when you take on the legislature. Go back to 1917, Paul Ferguson. He ended up being impeached by the Texas Senate, resigned right before the vote, but she could easily find herself in the state Senate under indictment and being impeached if she goes through with her promise there.
Heard it here first. Stephen, of all the Democrats running statewide, Garza has consistently been closest in the polls. Is that a result of Paxton's well-documented legal and ethical issues, or the qualities that Garza brings to the table?
I think it's twofold, right? Because some of the Paxton legal troubles have been inside baseball. Granted, you see it all over the ads and see it online, but I really don't know if that's connecting with voters, of them saying, this is why I'm not going to vote for Ken Paxton. I mentioned in my one word, Garza is a different type of candidate that Democrats will need. Now, will she win? Likely not, just because all these forces driving against the Democratic Party right now with inflation and other issues, but she is a different type of candidate. She's Hispanic, and so that's something that Republicans are targeting right now, those South Texas border counties where Hispanic voters are leaning Republican, at least according to polls. And so she's a different type of candidate for this moment. That's why I think she's a little close. And then also the Paxton baggage also helps her.
Speaking of the border, Rudy, Garza said the Biden administration isn't doing enough, and as a Democratic Attorney General, she'd fight to get South Texas communities more resources. What do you make of that response?
Well, she's got to say that. She can't deny the crisis. Beto O'Rourke even admits that the Biden administration isn't doing enough. They're all saying that. But what she's offering, and quite frankly, non-specifics, hollow words. And, you got to bring out more to the table if you're going to get past the high negatives with Ken Paxton, because let's face it, he got through primaries with those high negatives, and he still is toting the line in regards to what the Attorney General is going to be supposed to be doing. He's doing consumer fights. He's doing those things. He just wrapped up a recent press conference here locally in regards to taking on the opioid crisis. So she's got to provide a lot more specifics to convince people to switch over.
Okay, to see this interview and others, go to our Fox Stations YouTube page.
And you can keep the conversation going with us on our social media pages like Twitter and TikTok.
And next Sunday on Texas The Issue Is, we take a hard look at all the statewide races with the help of Rice University political analyst and pollster Mark Jones. Until then, be sure to tell us what you think the issue is.